So I don't know if you guys have heard the very, very good news, but Trump is about to fire over 6,000 IRS agents. And let me tell you a little something about myself before I continue. I used to work for the IRS. I took a job with the IRS after I had worked for a Republican state representative for over 4.5 years. And I always wanted to know what it was like on the inside working at the IRS. And I found out a lot of things that I wish I didn't know. Okay. One of the things that I found out is that most of the people that are working at the IRS are Democrats. Okay. 90% of them. I would go so far as to say they're socialist. Okay. They don't believe in the American dream. They don't believe in the entrepreneurial spirit. And most of the people, not all, but most of the people that work for the IRS get many orgasms when a rich person sends them a check because they don't like rich people. Okay. And I don't know if you ever heard this quote, maybe you heard it, maybe not. Taxation without representation is theft. Have you ever heard that? And that's basically what they're doing. They're stealing from us because are we really being represented when we're sending billions of dollars to some ballerina in Ukraine? Are we really being represented when we send money to terrorists in Palestine? Okay. U.S. aid. Are we really being represented when we send money for transgenders in Guatemala? I don't think so. I don't think so. So think about that when you write your check to the IRS this year. If you write your check to the IRS this year, because honestly, there was a little thing back in the day called the Boston Tea Party. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but I think that needs to happen again. Anyway, y'all have a good day.
Spot on 101.
Nobody has been able to show that there is a law for the average American citizen to pay an income tax.
But We the People Foundation put a full-page ad in the USA Today on July 7th, 2000. And within the body of that ad was a $50,000 challenge for anyone that could show the law. So I went after that and did the research based on the fact that I thought, let's put this baby to bed. I'm hearing all these rumors. I'll answer these people's questions that are asking me, and then I'll win this $50,000. I have not found that law. I've asked Congress. We've asked a lot of people in the IRS commissioners, helpers. They can't answer, because if they answer, the American people are going to know that this whole thing is a fraud.
There is no law that requires the average American worker in the private sector to pay a direct, unapportioned tax.
I really expected that, of course there's a law that requires you to file a tax return. Of course there is. So naively, I agreed to go off and research it and get back to him. 3.5 months later, I was at that point where I couldn't find the statute that clearly made a person liable, and I had no choice in my mind except to resign.
I had to leave the IRS because I presented evidence that I had accumulated indicating that the agency was violating the law and violating people's rights. I asked the agency for a response to my sincere concerns. The answer I got was that they would not respond to my concerns and that they would provide me with the paperwork necessary to tender my resignation.
You can look through the statutes and look for the law that requires you to pay. And when you do that, you can't identify a law that requires the average person in America who earns a wage to pay an income tax.
At the national level, when people would attempt to contact somebody of much higher authority, they would get answers that were in effect non-answers.
You have to understand that an agency which will unlawfully impose a tax that doesn't exist is not going to care. If we, the people, don't know what our rights are, they're not going to tell us.
If Americans just learned that the IRS was actually knowingly deceiving them, that would be enough for them to rise up and put a stop to it.
People have been told, that you need this income tax system to fund government, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, my question is, well, if that's true, how did we fund government from 1776 to 1913?
The main purpose of the income tax is not to raise revenue, but to redistribute wealth and to control society.
A lot of people might say, well, gee, if there wasn't an income tax, what would happen to education? They don't understand that education is paid for the most part, out of state and local taxes, your property tax. People might say, well, how are we going to build and maintain our highways? If there's no money coming into the government, we need our highways. There's a tax on every gallon of gasoline that people buy. Proceeds from the income tax do not pay for highway construction.
I believe that in both spirit and substance, our tax system has come to be un-American. Death and taxes may be inevitable, but unjust taxes are not.
All right, guys, it's over. The IRS as we know it, it is done. Yesterday, over 30% of the IRS's auditors resigned in a single day. Why? Because President Donald Trump just pulled the pin on the biggest financial shakeup in American history. And that's not even the half of it. In fact, at the very same time, right? very quietly, Social Security just made a change that will permanently impact how every American accesses their identity, their benefits, their future. But there was no press conference, there was no big rollout. But if you're on SSI or SSDI, let me know down in the comments. Or if you're just planning to retire one day in the future, you need to know what just happened. In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys exactly why President Trump's war against the IRS is just the beginning and what he's planning to do with your taxes next. We also need to talk about how your Social Security card's going fully digital this summer and what that really means for your privacy. And why Biden's quiet $8,000 checks for federal retirees, they've got people asking, where's mine? Comment down below if you did not yet get an $8,000 Social Security check yet. I want to hear from you guys. Guys, this is not a drill. This is a permanent shift, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why some are calling this the end of the IRS and the beginning of a cashless, government-tracked future. So stick with me, guys, because we're going to go ahead and expose the truth like we always do right here on the Ron Yates channel. I really appreciate the support. Oh, and if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. So first things first, we need to talk about the resignations that just rocked the IRS, okay? So according to the internal agency sources and corroborated headlines, 31% of IRS tax auditors just quit. Think about that. 31% of IRS tax auditors just quit? That's right, guys. So that's like 1/3 of their entire enforcement staff gone overnight. Why? Because President Trump and his Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, just made it very clear. The days of government overreach through endless audits, they're over. And so here's the kicker. This was the plan all along. Trump signed an executive order halting all new IRS hiring, freezing expansion efforts, and making sure that not a single new agent would be brought in under his watch. Now, if you've ever been audited, drop a quick yes in the comments down below and let me know how much you enjoyed that process. But now, why is this such a big deal? Well, it's because under President Biden, they wanted to add 80.
Sarah never thought she'd need life insurance. She was healthy, worked hard, and loved her family. Her agent once told her, "It's not about dying, it's about living prepared." 2 years later, Sarah was diagnosed with breast cancer. Bills piled up, and work became impossible. But because she had life insurance with living benefits, she received tax-free cash, enough to cover her treatments, keep her home, and stay focused on healing. She didn't have to start a GoFundMe. She didn't have to choose between medicine and rent. Her policy became her safety net, her peace of mind. Life insurance didn't just protect her family, it saved her life while she was still here. Text One Life to 9104476 today to protect your future. Call or text 9104476 It's a free call, and helping you is my job. I will personally reach out.